idea for a panel continuing on our social equity, social justice. And so let's give Tommy Thompson a hand, please. Is there a phone up there?
A phone? No. I think that's just came and got it. Someone just came and got it.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, good afternoon. I'd like to introduce me. I'm Tommy Thompson. I'd like to start by thanking Jim Goodwin and Jack Green and the Bioneers Committee for giving us some time to explain ex-cons re-entering society, the challenges and rewards that we face. First, I'll introduce our panel. We'll have Emily Ferrero, and she is a student up at Utah State University, majoring in political science. And she's going to talk a little bit about some statistics and some policies about incarceration rates. And then I'll go over a short story of my incarceration and what I learned from it, and social equity I'm trying to create with my group called Pro, Cons, and Allies, and we're associated with Utah State University. And then last but not least, we'll have Derek Rogers go, and he is a small business owner of Cache Valley CNG Conversions, which aims at reducing red air days in Cache Valley. And but to start off, we're going to show a short video about from an organization called Beyond Bars, which is related to our organization. So we'll start off with that, and then we'll have Emily go. So the lights.
Jack, can you do lights? Yeah.
I sold drugs so I can buy more drugs.
I stole a car. I stole a TV. What would you do about it?
Would you send me to prison?
Would you send me to prison?
Would you lock me up for a year?
A decade?
You would spend $31,000 a year to keep me locked up.
You won't spend that money on schools
Or healthcare?
or jobs programs. I won't pay taxes or child support.
My daughter will lose a father.
My son would lose his mother.
And when I come out?
I won't find a job. No one's gonna rent me an apartment.
I'll stay addicted. I'll steal again.
I'll become hardened.
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 There's a 2/3 chance I'll be rearrested within 3 years.
Will that serve?
The common good.
Does that serve the common good?
Consider a different path.
What if you gave me addiction treatment? Job training?
Supportive housing.
Community supervision.
GED classes.
Even higher education.
What would happen?
I'll beat my addiction.
I'll get a job. I'll pay taxes.
My daughter will have a better father. My son would have a better mother.
I'll get the message that I matter.
I matter.
I matter. I matter.
And then I'll act like it. I'll serve the common good.
What path would you choose for me?
What path would you choose?
And with that video, I'll introduce Emily Ferrero.
Hello, everyone. Like he said, my name is Emily Ferrero, and I am actually Tommy's older sister, and I am a political science major and environmental studies minor. I'm going to go over some statistics. They mentioned some in the video, but as I looked into this, I was alarmed and made more aware of what the actual, once you see numbers, you see that there is a problem. So in 1970, there were approximately 300,000 people incarcerated. Today, it has risen to almost 2 million. That's a 600% increase. In the US, we incarcerate 5 to 8 times higher than any other industrialized nation. Last year, we spent $44 billion in tax dollars just on corrections alone. Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, Michigan, and Oregon, they devote as much money or more to corrections as they do to higher education. Utah is one of 4 states. Utah is one of 4 states in which healthcare costs for inmates has doubled from 2001 to 2008. This is partially due to the fact that there are prisoners who are older and serving longer sentences. Utah taxpayers, we fund healthcare for them, which can cover sicknesses, drug treatment, transportation to the hospitals, and Utah prison just installed a geriatric unit. On average, like we said in the video, it costs $31,000 annually to house 1 inmate. So criminal behavior explains the size of the prison population, but incarceration rates have continued to rise while crime rates have fallen. So why is this happening? Research by the U.S. Justice Department shows that 2/3 of drug offenders leaving state prison will be rearrested within 3 years, and that nearly half of released drug offenders will be returned to prison either through technical violation, like probation violation, having a dirty drug test, or they'll go back with the new sentence. While imprisoning offenders does provide comfort to some in terms of public safety, it does little to reduce the cluster of issues which will see these people cycle in and out of the nation's correctional facilities. What is needed is a solution that's less costly than building more prisons. First, they can abolish mandatory sentences, give the discretion back to judges, let them decide if these offenders need to go to prison or if they just need treatment. Second, you can divert the nonviolent drug offenders into treatment programs to take them out of the prisons and put them into treatment programs. And when doing that, you're able to save a lot of money, and then you can refund the programs using the money that you're saving. Columbia University did a report in 2003, and it said that drug-involved offenders typically develop chronic dependence on the drug economy for substance. Reconnecting ex-offenders to the world of legitimate employment is crucial to maintaining recovery and reducing future criminal behavior. Chronic joblessness or underemployment limits their ability to leave drug crime lifestyle to support family and to successfully transition from treatment program to the community. Repeat felony offenders are often ineligible for federal education grants, membership in trade unions and government jobs, in many cases public assistance programs. The key element to making the strategy of success is obtaining the active support of business community as well as other concerned elements of society outside of the criminal justice system. It is a challenge, yet it's also a rare opportunity to forge public and private partnerships which can strengthen communities while at the same time fulfilling a public vital need. So with that information, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy, and he's going to talk about his experiences.
All right, so I thought of many different ways that I could share my story with everyone. You know, how I was raised, what the drivers were to my drug abuse, and what led up to my incarceration, or thought about telling you guys about my time being incarcerated, the different cellmates that I had, but I realized that this is kind of one of the depressing ways to tell my story, one of the lowest points in my life, so I'd rather share a story of my successes instead of my failures. And quite frankly, I'm tired of sharing and only loving my baggage, and I'm tired of talking about ex-cons and failures as if they were synonymous. I'm of the opinion that every day there's a lesson that we can learn, and this is no different from my incarceration. I learned how to communicate with all sorts of different groups of people. While I was incarcerated, I tried to keep to myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone else, but if you're in a confined cell, you have to talk to people that you wouldn't necessarily talk to on the street. So I was able to, learn how to communicate with Sureños and Norteños, which are Mexican gang members, white supremacist gang members, TCG, Tongan Creek gang members. I learned how to effectively communicate with these people. And I feel like if I can communicate with these gangsters, I can now communicate with banksters of Wall Street, House of Representatives. I learned a lot about my pain and my freedoms being lost. You know, I learned how to truly appreciate the small and the trivial things in life. I learned how to appreciate the freedom of choosing what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat, where I'm going to go outside, and when I'm going to strip my clothes off for someone and when. So I learned that there is something fundamentally broken with our judicial system. And even more so, I learned very little and next to nothing about rehabilitation. Being incarcerated was one of the most dehumanizing things that have ever happened to me. But it's what I learned from this experience that has made me who I am today. One of my favorite quotes is, "You can't control your life, but you can control how you react to it." So obviously I've chosen to look at my incarceration as a learning experience, which has given me the ability to take something that's ugly in my life and make it into something that's beautiful. And it's given me a lot of drive to work hard and to give back to a community, which has given me so much, but to whom I feel like I have given so little. When I got locked up, I'll give you a little bit of history. I was charged with 4 counts of possession of illegal substance with the intent to distribute, and 1 count of a restricted person with a firearm, and I was sentenced to 1 year. I did 3 months in the county jail. Then the judge didn't know quite what to do with me, so he sent me to the prison, to the parole board, and said, see what they think of you. And so they said, "You've never had a chance on probation or parole, so we'll send you back to county." So I was moved between facilities, and when I got arrested, I had been attending school for 2 years, and then I got out, got completed with probation, and in going back to school, I learned, I had a few people ask me, "So you came to school for 2 years, took 2 years off, so where'd you go on your LDS mission?" I found it funny, but at the same time, I felt like they were looking at me as a returned missionary rather than an ex-con re-entering society. And I couldn't help but feel that if I told them the truth, they would instantly view me as a bad person. But if I lied and said, I did my mission in Draper, then they would be like, "Oh, he's an alright guy." But I really do feel like there's a way that I can tell these people the truth and then have them still view me as a good person. And I believe that's so much in fact that I created a student-based organization at Utah State University called Pro-Cons and Allies. And our aim is to basically help these people who have been involved in the criminal justice system or had loved ones go through the criminal justice system. And even more occurring nowadays, we're helping people who have had parents raise them or not raise them because they've gone in and out of prison. So every semester on campus, we hold an opening social and a midterm social and a closing social. And for our opening social, we try to just get together, get to know each other, let each other know that we're not alone up there, build up some camaraderie with each other. And then for our midterm social, we focus on academic studies and try to help each other find math tutors, English tutors, and we, for our last midterm social, we got together and built a calendar to help map out the assignments that we have till we get to the final projects and final tests. And then we also do outside of school events. Like for last year, we participated with the College of Natural Resources for the Big Dam cleanup, where we went to first dam and second dam and cleaned up all the trash and filled up the back of my truck. There's a lot of trash up there. And another thing we volunteered for last year was the neighborhood nonprofit, which was it's a group of low-income families, and they get together and try to build each other's houses. So we were able to volunteer with them and help some of these families, build their dream homes. But at the same time, some of our members were able to get experience in construction, so they could now get trade jobs, and so they developed a trade that they can put on their resume. And I feel like this is mutually beneficial for both parties. And so I believe that it is possible to maintain safe communities and rehabilitative pathways for ex-cons. And I believe this really promotes social equity. Ex-cons, we're not just a bunch of bad guys with making bad decisions. You know, there are some good guys in there. And we can be leaders in our community, and we can contribute to our community. And so what I try to spread to other people is judge us based on the content of our character rather than the content of our criminal histories. So, with that being said, I'd like to introduce an ex-con and a leader in cleaning Cache Valley's air through his Cache Valley CNG conversion visions, Derek Rogers.
My name's Derek Rogers. I'm from Logan. Grew up here. Jack was a teacher of mine at Logan High. Didn't attend class much in those days, but I was forgiven when I would show up at class. I lived a normal life, really, normal. Cache Valley normal. Went to church with my family when I was a kid and was baptized and things, and was involved in sports and school. And my dad suffered from drug addiction, and I didn't know that till I was about 13 when he relapsed. And my parents divorced, and I was instantly thrown into the life of getting in trouble and partying. And my mother wasn't. She was more of an enabler than really helping me. She had her own problems as well. And if it wasn't for the grace and the love of my grandparents, I probably wouldn't have got through high school. I lived with them through the later years of high school, on and off probation, and barely got through high school and thought that I could make choices. And I made some really bad choices, and like Tommy, I went to prison for distributing drugs. And it took me a month or so in there to really kind of come around and come out of my shell. There's a lot of, you don't know what you're getting into in a place like that, and it's scary. But it didn't take me long to realize by the mentality and the things that go on in there that's not for me, and that something had to change. Something I live by now is nothing changes unless something changes. And so I did everything I could but play cards, get in fights, do drugs, get tattoos. I took college courses. I found a rehabilitation program that is inside the Draper prison called Conquest, and I was able to get into that and take anger management courses and relapse prevention. And I went to church, I went to the gym. I did everything I could to learn and gain as many tools on my belt as I could, so when I got out, that I wasn't a statistic. I didn't want to be that guy that said, yeah, I've been back 3 times, and 4 times, or, and I wanted to do something. There's oftentimes it's really weird I'm up here, because there's times in my cell before I even really started making big changes that I thought, could I ever be that guy that's sitting up telling people that I did it, that I made it, that I'm a good person, that I'm honest, that I'm a hard worker. And so I worked hard in there. I worked as hard in there as I have the last 8-10 years since I've been out. I got out, I served 14 months, and I got out and I hit the ground running. I didn't sit around and do much of anything. There was no idle time for me. I jumped right into working. I met my wife right away. I joined the electrical union and started working towards being a journeyman electrician. Had the opportunity to open a rain gutter business, and I did that and did both. I ran rain gutters and I ran the electrical apprenticeship. My wife had a boy that was 6 when we met, and I was coaching his soccer team before I was even married to his mom. Coached his basketball team. I had a daughter, and so life has just been, it's been 10 years already, and it really doesn't feel like it at all. Meeting Tommy is great. He's a great friend. The things that he called me and said, hey, can you help me? Can you help me out? Yeah, I'll help you do anything, man. What can I do for you? He's like, well, I need you to speak. And I'm like, what? I already said yes, let's do it. So this isn't something that I do every day. If I wasn't here right now, I've got a lot of rain gutter to put on. Winter's coming, and people, don't want water on their steps, and so I'm that guy right now. And But since all of that, I was sitting at the pump station one day filling up gas, $3.70 a gallon, trying to get up to the Beeve to do some snowboarding, and it's expensive, and I'm upset that I have to pay this much money for fuel. And I look up in the sky and I can't even see the sky. The inversion is so thick in this valley that, it's like they're taking our kids' recess away at school, because they can't go outside because it's unhealthy. And so, being the business-minded guy that I am, part of my problem of getting in trouble is I like to make money. I like that transaction, and I figured out with rain gutters and with CNG and with things that I get that. I can communicate with people, I can deal with people, I can talk to people at their level and get that rewarding feeling and not have it be in a negative way, and a negative influence. And so it clicked to me that I have brothers that are great mechanics. I feel like I might be able to run a somewhat successful business, and I thought about converting cars to natural gas. I'm filling up at L Dubs, and there's a white pump station right there, and there's Honda Civics and Chevy Cavaliers coming through there, and I'm like, well, I don't want to drive one of those cars, I want to drive my truck. And so I did some research, and I went and got certified to install conversion kits. Any make or model of vehicle, it's the best quality kit on the market. We pay the money, we take the certification course, we get our cert, we convert my truck in class, and now I'm driving around for $1.50 a gallon. CNG burns about 6 times cleaner than gasoline, so I'm thinking, well, I'm doing my part, and at the same time, I might be able to make some money and help the community do their part so our kids can breathe better. And it's hard work. I'm actually doing my second conversion when I leave here on an F-150 for a guy out of Afton who just put in a pump station. That'll be my second job in 18 months. Both jobs came from Afton. I haven't converted one vehicle in Cache County yet. I've got a lot of phone calls. I've done some service jobs on other vehicles that, aren't running very well, other kits and stuff. And so it's kind of a nutshell story about me. I didn't want to take up a ton of time and bore you with all my troubles as a youth, but I'm proud of who I am today. Prison was the best, worst time of my life. I don't ever want to go back there, but I don't take it back for a second. And Tommy is awesome. He's a good friend, and I'm thankful that he invited me to be here. And so, thank you.
With you in front first.
First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate how you all have turned your lives around and the constructive things you're doing in your lives. And I just want somebody's input on this. I've always had a philosophy for many years that instead of throwing all these prisoners or all these criminals into prisons and spending all that taxpayers' dollars, $31,000 a year for each inmate, why doesn't this country try something different, like kind of a military style? I know this has been experimented places, a boot camp rehabilitation, but actually put like military style camps or bases throughout the country, send prisoners there, give them the boot camp rehabilitation, but then also give them job training, and then utilize them as a resource for things like environmental cleanup, trail construction, things that would have a good positive impact on the environment. And it would probably still cost the taxpayers the same amount of money, but we're getting something out of it. Plus, it's a better rehabilitation and training and maybe get education while you're there and stuff like that. I mean, I just wonder why this country doesn't.
They do, the prisons right now, they do have jobs that they do. They are about making money. There are companies that go to the prisons and say, hey, I want you to do, everyone sees the license plates, they make furniture, there's a lot of different things that they do that's not about the environment. we're not an environment-driven nation, we're a money-driven nation. So I think a lot of the reason is you don't have the people that are in power, the people that are representing us, pushing for that. There's not policy for it. I think if there was, then it would definitely change. But it's a community. You know, people see prisoners, and that's a different community. That's not them. They don't really want to associate themselves with it. So I think people kind of stand back and just let the judicial system do its work. They have their mandatory sentences. There get tough laws. In the 80s and 90s, that the war on drugs started. And that's when the mandatory sentences started. That's when we had more people going to prison. So we're a nation of getting tough and making money. So I think until policy changes, until we can get some representatives in the Senate, in Congress, showing and standing up for this community rather than trying to get tough with them.
Okay, let's go with this gentleman back here. Yes.
I think the only studies that have ever proven that people avoid going back to jail is by educating and giving good job training. But there are so many problems in the penal system. You know, prisons are becoming privatized. Judges are being bought off to direct prisoners to certain prisons. People aren't given the training they need. I mean, you folks are fabulous examples of what could be going on. So I just wanted to make those comments that, and one question. Have either of you testified before our legislature? Have you been invited or have you pushed for that? Because your stories are important. To let them know that just putting people behind bars doesn't accomplish anything. Rehabilitation programs and not going to prison, not becoming a felon where you can't get a job because you have to announce in your application that you've been to prison. Can you vote ever again? I mean, that's one of the craziest parts of our penal code. People are trying to get reintegrated into society and they're not allowed to vote. I could go on. I get very emotional about this issue. But I would strongly encourage you, if you haven't gone to our legislature, to go and educate them because they're probably not very educated in this whole area.
To your question, I was going to say, tomorrow we have a senator and 2 representatives from the legislation. I wish they'd been here now and heard this. But
Can you guys come back tomorrow morning?
Do this again.
Your testimony right there.
I just wanted to add that right now, decisions are being made whether to privatize our prison system or not. So what this gentleman, who happens to be my husband, said, I say, yes, you really ought to go to our legislature and make this an issue and make sure that they're not privatized. May I ask what types of drugs you were dealing with?
Yeah, I'm an open book. I'm pretty willing to explain my story, but yeah, I had cocaine, acid, some mushrooms, and some pot. And so those
not like meth?
No
or,
meth.
Or heroin?
No heroin.
None of them really bad. I mean,
Not the dirty drugs.
They're not bad.
Marijuana was my problem, but meth killed my dad 6 years ago, a month before my daughter was born. It destroyed my family. Yeah. And so, anyway, it's a big deal. And it just takes people, to not just forgive, but want to help, and it's the little things. Everyone doing a bunch of little things it ends up being a big deal for even just one person. We have a friend of ours that has kind of been up and down with success, and finally, a couple people have given him a chance again, and he's doing really good right now. And so, there's success stories out there, and we just want them to be more. We want people to know, give other people confidence too. Like, wow, you know what? you know, I don't have to go back there. So